Lou, New York, you're on the Wilkow Majority. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Andrew. Andrew, I'd like to take just a little issue with you about your comment about the college students and the education that they've gotten and how they're not using their education because they're getting all sorts of esoteric degrees. I think education, college is for education, grad school's for your training. These people who are down there on Wall Street, occupying Wall Street, are misrepresenting themselves. If they're not working, it's because they don't want to work, not because they don't have an education. The problem with this country is we have too many technicians and not enough educated people who can think and who can separate the wheat from the chaff. There are a lot of sheep down there, and you have some people down there who are thinking, but they're thinking in the wrong way, if you will. The problem we have with our country today is we have too many technicians in our government, not enough thinkers and not enough statements, whom I believe you will get if you have a liberal arts education, which as opposed to just a technical education where you can leave college and get a job right away.
That's not what that's not. I don't know if you might have been mishearing me. What I was saying is that if you're going to incur debt for the purpose of an education where there's no real field of practice for that education, and then you're in debt, nobody owes you their money to relieve your debt. If you feel you've been duped, take it up with your institution of higher learning. I was not talking. What I was getting at is not just trades like the building trades. There are certain courses of study that are based in absolute fact, and it's required of someone to have experience applying themselves in that field of study before they can teach it. For example, you can't teach heart surgery without performing heart surgery. You can teach journalism without ever working at a newspaper.
I agree with you completely. There are certain factual sciences, and there are other liberal arts, if you will, where a lot of personal opinion can get transmitted to the students with a leftist bent. But the real education allows the student to think on both sides of the issue.
Well, hold on, Lou. Let me address that point. Here's the thing. There are also courses of study where nobody can identify the origin of expertise. For example, Newton's apple. Well, we could draw a line from there to physicists today. Okay? When you study literature, I don't need to go to a university to read a book. You just said it yourself. High school is the basis of training. Once you have the English language, under wraps, and you've got reading comprehension pretty well done, you don't need to study literature. You read literature for what it was designed for, which is enjoyment. How can you teach me a book? No, here's the thing. What is the origin of somebody who says, I know how to explain Mark Twain to you better than Mark Twain explained himself when he wrote that book?
I don't think that's what it's done. I think if you're going to teach Mark Twain, you teach Mark Twain in the milieu and in the age in which he wrote. You teach the thoughts.
Well, hold on. That's a history. That's a history course. I'm talking about purely a literature course. Mark Twain wrote his books for people like you and I to read them, not to be taught them. An artist doesn't put a painting in a museum so somebody can stand in front of that painting and go, I know more about this than you people.
Oh, I agree completely with that about the artist.
But that's what I was getting at with my authority of thought. When you sit in a literature course, there's an authority of thought. The teacher knows more than you, except you'll never get any of these academics to ever explain the base of their knowledge, other than, I read the book, you read the book.
Yeah, well, that's what's wrong with our education today, because a good teacher will not do that. A good teacher is there to stimulate thought, not to impose his or her opinions upon the students.
But that's the problem facing academia today. Academics tend to, more often than not, impose their thoughts on students while claiming, I'm just trying to get you to be open-minded. Well, open-minded means leaving me to think for myself and not passing judgment on my thoughts. But again, how can anybody with any certainty say that my reading of this book, a novel, is more valid than your reading of that book, a novel. And here's another way, another problem with our education system. You have an academic who says, well, I'll choose to prescribe an Upton Sinclair novel to my class and never choose to prescribe an Ayn Rand novel to my class. Why? Because I support Sinclair and I don't support Rand. Now you're crossing again into the authority of thought. What is illegitimate about an Ayn Rand novel? That is on the other side on an Upton Sinclair novel. What makes his work now? Well, scholars say, okay, what is the basis of their scholarship? I read Atlas Shrugged. You read Atlas Shrugged. What are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell me that I can't glean from the book myself? 1-866-95-PATRIOT.